Now let's go to our favorite pinata, electronic music.
Favorite pinata, goddamn.
This is like Audioface is straight up the like abusive boyfriend in the relationship with electronic music.
You really
You make
are.
me do this.
Don't make me do this. Actually, I think EDM for the first time in a long time is making a step in the right direction.
Okay, I'm a
It was
lot less optimistic, but let's go.
but only certain artists. The issue with EDM is you have to sift through a lot of garbage, and it's going to be like that for the foreseeable future. You have to sift through your marshmallows.
Amen.
You got to sift through your Stevie Aokis, your marshmallows, your Dylan Francis of the world, where they just sound bland and shit. But you can get really good EDM, like example,
And
Swedish
can I
House
also say
Mafia and stuff.
before you get into
So
this,
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
it's going to continue even more because as we'll get into another part of this larger state of music conversation, um, concerts are back, touring is back, and so all
Mm-hmm.
the live DJs are back, and so all the DJs who have learned nothing over COVID lockdowns and experimented virtually nothing are going to be redoing their 90-minute sets, pressing spacebar in 60 cities around the world for the next 3 years. And so you're going to have to be sifting through other things like that. But Sean, as you were saying about Swedish House Mafia.
Yeah, so you have some bigger name artists that I think are doing good with what they have. Um, Naturally, like I think Swedish House Mafia will be interesting how they sound live and whatnot, but I thought their stuff was very good from what I heard. And like example, Rez, like a return to form of a EDM artist that we really like. So you have some artists that will make very good music and very good EDM, which is good because I miss that experimentation. I mean, we literally just went over Chanel Tressa's album, and I absolutely loved, and I'll put that solid in the EDM category.
Shut up,
Within
Bonobo.
that, Shut Up Bonobo, exactly. So there's really good EDM. You had Fortet last year, and you had a couple other like single tracks and whatnot that have come out. Also, Free Fortet. More on
But,
that later. Um,
I'll say really fast, like one, not to tangent you too much, but one thing that is uniting all of that stuff is that's really chill. And
yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah,
annoying because like I think there are a lot of EDM fans out there who like the fast pacedness of it, but also see that like okay, it gets a little bit repetitive, it gets a little bit less creative. They listen to the chill stuff and they're like, okay, there's a lot of creativity here, but I like electronic music for like the pump and the action. And so I
yeah,
think that's a big avenue for people to actually get into, which once
yeah.
again goes make it hype, make it fun, make it something that people enjoy, but do something fucking different.
The thing is the issue is how people grew up with electronic music. So Americans really didn't grow up with a lot of electronic music as much. You know, it was usually very underground, especially like when I was a kid growing up. You don't have I knew nobody who knew house music, who knew techno, who knew obviously there's so many different variations of
Like the
house and
real
everything I listened to.
subgenres. It
Yeah,
wasn't really a
the
big thing
so
for us
super
until dubstep.
subgenres. Yeah, it really wasn't until, yeah, exactly, until the early 2010s. And even dubstep, I knew from Scream in 2006. So I knew, Scream, Con, all these other artists on the Medi level label that they had like such a profound influence on UK dubstep, even in garage and house and whatnot, that when it came here, it was so distorted and sounded completely different than what it ever was. That like Scream and a couple other of those people, they left the scene and ended up doing completely different stuff. That's actually why he's my favorite DJ. More on that at some point whenever I do just a Sean episode, whenever the fuck that happens. But anyways, within that, the issue is so many people weren't exposed to it until the early 2010s, at least here, that that became the popular sound was, your hypey typey stuff because that was the only thing that they understood. But more and more people need to get exposed to your underground music, your underground DJs, your underground mixes, all of the different variations of house that you can get. And within that, more and more mainstream artists need to dive into that. They need to dive into old UK dubstep, old UK garage and stuff, and even drum and bass and some other sounds that they can take influences up and make into different tracks, which some guys are doing, Bonobos of the world or Fortets and whatnot, but they're not big enough to really completely shift the industry into what it needs to do. And within that, there are very, very good artists that are pushing that forward and are pushing that sound, which is why I'm hopeful for it. Because I'm hopeful that somehow more and more people are able to listen to that and able to get into it and then demand, other bigger artists and whatnot to experiment and to do different things. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I mean, you're always gonna have your bullshit artists, your hyphy typey peoples for the rest of EDM eternity because it's a cash cow at the end of the day. But there are more and more people that can do better with what they have. And the big thing too is what I'm really, really interested in looking forward to um, is live music within EDM because a lot of music for EDM, for electronic, needs to have a live setting. So I'm very excited to go to these underground clubs that have been closed for the past couple of years. These big electronic festivals and other things too, to hear what that sounds like on the ground, what the mixes are like, what DJs are making and whatnot. I mean, we're always going to be disappointed by some people doing those, but then you're going to find artists here that are making really good sets, and then we got to just get them out to the people and to have more and more people listen to them. So that's kind of where I'm hopeful in that way.
Yeah, on that live music point, I will be going to a number of really big festivals. I'm going to
Yeah.
Coachella this year. I've just been roped into going to Primavera Sound in Barcelona in June.
Oh, you're in the Barcelona one? Shit. I want to do the LA one because that's actually Arctic Monkeys are fucking headlining that.
Oh, that would be
But
dope. But like, I
yeah,
think that'd be like you hit some of the underground ones. I'll do some of like the big festivals around here,
I would love to do that. Yeah.
in purely journalistic and possibly tax writable purposes. We will be going to different.
Yo, if I
we
get
go-
tax write off going to shows, that would be beautiful.
Syndicate 23 LLC, baby.
Let's
No,
do
I'm
it.
kidding. I'm actually not sure how that works. So IRS, don't come after me. But like that being said, if it works, it works. If it fits, it ships. But the I do. That's a really good point because I think you get the difficult thing. We talked about this so much on Audioface is that when you review electronic albums, you can't because so many electronic albums are mixes of other things that are super hard to clear. That a real good electronic experience is a DJ set that goes on for like an hour and a half. We are mixing different songs, some new, some old, but you get these like really good beats in the middle, right? And so overall, I am really looking forward to that experience, but I really think that that shouldn't be a roadblock for electronic DJs. I think that they should, or electronic artists. I know I've made that distinction in the past, but I think that you should still be able to give people that experience of hearing an album all the way through that sounds like a mix that maybe includes some things that are sampled, but maybe just includes things that are really cool, like the Avalanches, super curveball because they're not technically electronic music, but their early albums were definitely really dance inspired. They were after a certain point because plunder phonics and sampling things gets cumbersome and expensive and tedious. They would just recreate and make the sounds they wanted to. I think, and this also touches into other things we'll talk about very shortly, but as we're wrapping up electronic music, I think that the more electronic appreciates but not appropriates world music, looking at you, Diplo, the more that you can get a lot of influences, because I think Disclosure, and not always the best way, but in like largely I think a good faith way, got a lot of influences from world music and dance music in Latin America, dance music in Africa, dance music that is in Muslim nations, dance music that is in East Asia, South Asia. Like, there's so many other things you can pull through and also unite people in this pretty turbulent time through the world through music. Not saying it's going to be the end all be all. Like, David Guetta doing that Black Lives Matter thing, like, and this next drop is for George Floyd, or that latest DJ thing where like in the corner of this mix is just like a flag that says "You stand for Ukraine." Like, none of that nonsense, right?
Jesus
But
Christ, please don't do that.
like in the way that music can, in the way that's done for Sean and I, and the way that's done for many of the audience's viewers here, they listen to it and they go, "Oh, that's interesting. I want to learn more." and then you end up going through a rabbit hole and you end up learning something really cool about a culture or an industry or a person or a country or whatever that is for you. Music is a journey that's more than just the sounds. And so I think electronic can be one of those genres that takes people through that journey in the most beautiful way possible. But like with all other genres we've talked about here, it will require actual inspiration and creativity from those artists and drive. That's not a lot of what we're seeing here. We're seeing it from a few artists, but not enough. So overall, at least from me, from electronic, more albums that sound like mixes, that go through like mixes, that go really hard, that I can share with people that are hype, but also creative, that take influences from the world at large. I'd say you'd agree more or less.
100%. Yep.